it's time to sit back and relax with your favorite drink. And listen. Well, my dear friends, the response I get whenever I do a corpse child story is always phenomenal. You really love his work, and of course you do, so do I. So it's a great pleasure to be reading another of his stories to you this evening. Now I'll just give you a little bit of a quick introduction so you know what is in store for you. A missed call at 4 a.m. leads to a chilling discovery. Jack's estranged uncle Don is dead, and his frantic phone warnings hint at a horrifying truth that Jack's family has long kept buried. As Jack digs deeper, he uncovers a terrifying mystery about a killer who may be, well, not what or who they seem. What secrets did Uncle Don die trying to reveal? Now, without further ado, here we go with Family Gathering by Corpse Child. Part 1. Huh? What the... I put the pillow over my head and went back to sleep. They can wait. Probably frickin' Kate again with a damn booty call or some shit. Doesn't she ever get enough? I groaned, still ignoring the phone. Oh, I swear to God, I'll flush it down the toilet if it doesn't shut the Crazy Train starts blaring from my phone. Great, how am I supposed to ignore that? By either a miracle or the grace of God, whoever the jackass was that decided it would be appropriate to harass me over the phone at fucking 4 in the morning on a work night, hung up before the first guitar riff had ended. I guess it wasn't that important after all. Well, that's what I thought anyways. Yet here I am, unable to sleep because of what happened. I hate the irony, especially over something so trivial. What I wouldn't have given now just to have sucked it up and answered that goddamn phone. It's Thursday morning last week when I got those texts and phone calls. When I woke up again at around 6:15 like usual, that's when I looked at the texts. From my Uncle Don. I hadn't seen or heard from him in years, not since our last family cookout about 2 or 3 years back, when I remember he, my father and grandfather all got into a heated argument about, well, something. I never knew what it was then, nor did I ever bother to ask. All I knew was that it was enough to drive Uncle Don away from the family almost entirely, and put my father into an especially bad mood for a few days after. Of course, it wasn't like he was ever one to be in a good mood anyway. And from that day, no one in my family would ever talk about him or bring him up. Then I saw the text that morning. There were 3 of them, all misspelled too, like he might have been in a hurry when he was typing them. Jack, please, don't ever go home. The truth will kill you. Obviously, my first thought with this was, what the hell? I'd known Uncle Don to be a bit of an oddball, but this seemed different. Somehow I felt like I just knew these texts were genuine. He was panicking about something, but what? I looked at my voicemail. Sure enough, he'd actually left a message. Clicked on it to play the message. It was hard to hear, sounding like there was some kind of interference on the other end. Jack, answer your phone, please. Well, the message seems to pause for a moment, hearing only static. When Uncle Don came back, he was shouting. Stay away from the house, Jack. It looks like me. It's coming for me. It's too late. Stay away from home while you still... The audio faded into complete white noise after that, and continued for the last 30 seconds of the message. I immediately tried calling him then, but it went straight to voicemail. The second time, I left a message of my own, telling him to call me as soon as he got it. I didn't hear back, though. It was an entire day later before I ever found out why. It was the next morning, early. I'd been woken up by a knock at my door. Groaning, I shambled out of bed and went to answer. The knocking at the door was persistent, too. God, I hated it when people did that. Peeping through the door, I saw it was my sister, Lisa. She was in tears. Oh, God. He did it again, didn't he? Damn it. I thought she'd finally gotten rid of that rat bastard. I could feel every muscle in me tense up as I gripped the doorknob. I was ready to throw the door open, embrace her as tight and as close to me as possible, and demand that she tell me where that shit-heel boyfriend of hers, Francis, was. Another half-round knock sounded before I finally opened the door. Oh, God, Lana, are you okay? I asked desperately. She sniffled. I pulled her close and said, "Shh, it's okay, it's okay." She sobbed in my arms for another minute before I gestured for her to come inside to talk about it. I'd have liked to ask her the million-dollar question right there on my porch, if I wasn't still in my freaking boxes. Inside, I sat Lana down on the couch. I gave her another minute to clear herself up, and then she finally spoke. "Jack, Don, Uncle Don, oh God, he's dead, Jack." My eyes widened. "What?" I exclaimed. "When?" She sniffled. 2 days ago. They found him yesterday after a neighbor reported screaming. 2 days ago? My heart sank. But that was when... I looked at my phone. Up until then, I'd simply put the whole thing out of my mind. I figured, if anything, I'd have gotten a call from him calling the whole thing a hoax. What happened? God, it was awful. Have you not seen the news? I shook my head. Following that night, he tried to call me. I hadn't managed to do much other than work. Found him all over the place, Jack. You mean like a break-in? She shook her head wildly. I don't know. They didn't tell me anything. All I know is somebody killed him, Jack. I hugged her again and offered to make some breakfast. She declined, saying she had to go. She left. I was alone in my living room again. Murdered, I wondered. I spent the next hour and a half or so trying to think of just who the hell would want Uncle Don dead like that. I remembered him being the kind of guy who wanted to keep to himself most of the time. Guy didn't have many friends, sure, but I didn't think he made real enemies either. I mean, other than pissing off Dad and Grandpa, they wouldn't have wanted him dead, would they? I knew it wouldn't have been Grandpa. He passed away 2 years back. That'll leave Dad then, but of course, I wasn't really set on that idea. I mean, again, it wasn't like he hated the guy. Even still, though, he was the only one that could tell me why he and Grandpa shunned him for so long. I decided then to call up Dad, seeing if he'd want to meet somewhere for breakfast that morning. We ended up meeting at a diner just across the street from the big shopping mall on the other end of town at around 11 that morning. I arrived 5 minutes earlier than him. "Hey, Jack," he said, smiling and pulling me in for a hug. "How have you been?" I've been okay," I replied, anxious to dive right into the matter at hand. He sat down and the waitress came for drink orders. I ordered a large sweet tea while he got a cup of coffee, black, the only way he and Grandpa would ever drink it. "So, what's got you giving me a ring?" Took a gulp of my tea and asked, "Heard about Uncle Don?" His smile instantly fell. I took another swig of tea while he did the same with his coffee. Another moment passed between us in an awkward silence. "Yeah," he finally said in an annoyed tone. "Has anyone said anything about how it might have happened? Any ideas of who it was, maybe?" He scoffed dryly. "Oh, don't really reckon they have. Well, Anna told me they think it might have been a break-in." "Not likely. The way my brother loved his guns, if anyone was damn stupid enough to try breaking in his house, I'd find it more likely that the other guy would be carried out of there on a gurney." Well, he had a point there. Like most bad uncles you hear about, Uncle Don was very much an outdoorsman. I remember the times he'd take me and Lana hiking through the different mountain trails up in Grandview Pines. I also knew, at least when he still kept at least minimal contact with the family, that he'd go up there about every fall or so to take a holiday, usually to go hunting for deer, which he'd then bring over for Thanksgiving dinner that year. Christmas too, if we were lucky. Well, the point is, the man could shoot and loved to do it. Therefore, like Dad said, robbery was ruled out of the equation for me. Dad, I began hesitantly. Dad looked up, clearly not comfortable with this conversation. To a degree, I almost wished I'd just left it all there. What happened between you two? I mean, you used to be cool with each other. What happened at that family cookout? This was when he stared coldly, intently at me. I felt the urge to try walking back the question, but I didn't. I persisted. Dad, what happened between you and Uncle Don? Son, I'm not in the mood for this right now, okay? Let's drop the subject, please. But Dad, what if it has something to do with what happened? He raised his eyebrow at me in alarm. What do you mean? Well, what if whoever did this was part of whatever turned you two on each other in the first place? To this, he slowly shook his head. No, son, he said, sighing in utter annoyance. Wasn't nobody that had anything to do with that. Wasn't anybody else involved in that. Not that I'd have known anyway. What do you mean? What are you talking about? Involved with what? Well, I stopped when he slammed his coffee mug down, eyeing me like a lunatic. Said, enough, he growled. I shrank back down in my seat. There's a damn good reason we stopped talking to each other, Jack. Our family's had enough to deal with without that son of a bitch carrying on the way he was, okay? And I hate that this happened, but damn it, I'm not getting sucked back into that shit again. Again, I wondered, raising my eyebrows at him in confusion. I'd have probably pressed the question had he not made it perfectly clear by that point that he was in absolutely no mood to continue the conversation. The waitress came back again and we ordered our food. I guess whatever it was between him and my uncle was enough for him to basically ruin his appetite too, because he only ordered a slice of cheesecake with a small bowl of ice cream. We ate in a tense silence. When he was finished, he silently got up, flew a $20 bill on the table, and walked out of the diner without another word. And I guess that, funnily enough, was what ended up ruining my appetite. I ended up not even finishing my own plate of sausage and eggs. After paying and leaving the diner, I got in my car and was about to just head back home when I got another idea instead. I figured if I was going to get any kind of answers as to what happened, I'd need to go to his house myself. Of course, there was the immediate drawback to this idea, being that I was explicitly warned to stay away. At the same time, though, why? Just what was it that made the old family house so dangerous? Well, I grew up in that house. I couldn't remember anything horrible about it. But then, what was it that he was warning me about? It looks like me. What does that mean? What did Dad know about it? All these questions continued mounting higher and higher, until I eventually caved and decided to make the 45-minute journey to the old family home. The whole way out there, all I could think about was what Uncle Don kept repeating through the phone. The truth will kill you. What truth? It had just gotten to 12:30 when I pulled into the driveway of the old family home in the back roads of Kings Mountain. The house sat there, surrounded by trees from the surrounding woods, looking every bit as quiet as I remembered it being. It looked every bit as old as I figured it would, too. It had been the same house that not only my father and uncle had grown up in, but where my grandparents had as well. The paint, which used to be a sort of beige, now faded into a more piss-yellow-looking color. Where I was standing, I could see a few places where the window frames were cracked, with the one on the left side having an entire chunk missing from its bottom corner. Aside from that, though, it looked to me like it should. Nothing overtly wrong, you know. Just a normal house in the Kings Mountain. Old as hell, but normal. I got out of the car and made my way to the house. Jack! I stopped. Turning my head, I looked to see nothing. I looked back for at least a minute before turning and continuing to the house. Must have been the wind, I thought. Listening close, though, I realized the wind was quiet too. Not even the leaves rustled on the nearby trees. Like I said, completely silent. Calm. Peaceful. I walked to the porch. Beneath my feet, the old wood creaked loudly. I could feel them starting to give way beneath me. Oh, if I wasn't careful, the wood was for sure going to snap under my weight. I tried peeking through the window, but there was furniture or something blocking both of them. I went to open the door then. Jackie boy. I stopped again. What the hell? I looked back again. Nothing. But I heard that. I know I did. I stood for another good 10 or 15 minutes, looking everywhere. There was absolutely nothing around, save the trees. I closed my eyes and muttered under my breath, "There's nothing there." Taking a deep breath, I opened my eyes and turned the doorknob. The door took a bit of effort, but I was able to force it open. When I did, I ended up going into a small coughing fit from all the dust that had been kicked up. Inside, it was dark. The electricity had obviously long since stopped working. Pulling out my phone, I clicked my flashlight on and began to walk around. Like the outside, everything inside looked perfectly normal as well, barring, of course, the collection of dust and cobwebs everywhere. I went around the ground level of the house, revisiting the old rooms, one of which used to actually be mine. Every room still looked the same, like nothing had ever been moved or renovated since I'd moved out when I was 18. Hell, I even saw the old Metallica poster I had hanging on the wall just above my bedpost. As well as this, I even spotted some of the old family photos still hanging on the wall, along with all the old furniture. In short, the place hadn't been touched, despite being vacant for years. I found this odd. Hadn't a realty company or something come and at least tried to renovate? Also, how come neither Mum, Lana, Dad, Grandpa, or Uncle Don, who'd lived with us during that time, like I said, close-knit family until the incident at the barbecue, took any of their old belongings with them? The more I stood there, walking through that old house, the more I wondered if there was more to the falling out with Uncle Don than I could have guessed, which obviously wasn't much considering I didn't know anything that had sparked the proverbial powder keg. Still, though, I just had the feeling that it wasn't just standard fair family feud bullshit either. I decided then to go check around the upstairs level. The stairs creaked as I stepped up each of them, trying to be as gentle as possible. Admittedly, the creaking, mixing with the overall quiet stillness of the place, did start to get to me a little bit. You know, that feeling you get when you know you're completely alone, yet somehow you feel like you aren't. Like something or someone is there with you, somehow lingering just outside your line of sight, in your blind spots. Cheesy, sure, but if you were there, you'd understand what I mean. Every room upstairs was the same as the ones below. Still the way I remembered them looking back in the day. Portraits, knickknacks, and all was still in the exact same place. Maybe I should clarify something here. When I say the place looked the same, or like it hadn't been touched since my family moved out, I don't mean that it looked cluttered, or that things were strewn about, or that everything had been neatly set. The rooms looked somewhere between cluttered and organized. Basically, it looked like there were supposed to be people living there, only without the people. Needless to say, this raised a mountain of questions, starting with why. Why had the house not been touched in God knows how long? At least since the year after I moved out, when they ended up following me down to Dallas. Why did everything still look like people lived there when they hadn't? Why hadn't the realty company tried to sell it to anyone else? Hell, did they even know it was empty? Why did Uncle Don want me to stay away from this place? That brought up another question for me. If there was something wrong with this place, something that apparently drove my folks to literally just pick up and leave like that, and if he knew what it was, why did he go back to the house? All of these questions kept leading me back to two things. First was the repeated question of what the hell happened at that family barbecue, and the second one was if there really was something about that house, then what was it? And how could it kill me? Deep down, I knew that these, Uncle Don's murder, as well as his cutting off from the family, and Dad's disapproval of any mentioning of him were all connected somehow. The only question then was, how? I also knew that, while Lana and I were growing up, there wasn't any mention or any way of letting on about anything bad. Unfortunately, that meant she wasn't likely to know anything either. Not about the house itself, that is. But maybe, I figured, it was worth taking a shot and asking if she knew why Dad and Uncle Dan had fallen out. I figured if she did have any clues on that, at least she could answer that question for me. Well, more help than Dad was anyways. Took out my phone and dialed Lana's number. Rang for the better part of a minute. Jack. I looked around again. What the hell is that? Where's it coming from? Hello? Lana's voice snapped me back into focus. Well, Lana, hey, listen. You doing anything right now? I continued looking around the upstairs hallway. Nothing was there. Who was that saying my name? Jack, you there? I heard her ask. Yeah, I'm here. I asked if you were doing anything right. Jack, hello, can you hear me? Something's going on one of our ends. I can't hear anything. Everything's all fuzzy. I frowned. Fuzzy. Walked down the stairs to the living room. Yeah, how about now? Okay, I can hear you a little bit now. What's going on? Come on down and pull up a chair, Jackie boy. I whirled around on my heels. Nothing. Just an empty kitchen. Jack? Hello? Oh, yeah, what are you doing right now? I just got off work for the day. I'm on my way to Burger King to grab a quick bite from the drive-thru before... Wait, I paused for a moment looking around. Who's speaking to me? Hey, can I meet you there? Sure, Jack. Hey, is everything okay? Yeah, everything's... Come join us for dinner, Jack. You've been gone so long. Mama's making something special. Every joint in my body locked up. That sounded like Uncle Don. It was the same thing he used to tell me and Lana when I used to come back home from playing outside all day when I was a kid. Uncle Don? I muttered softly, shuddering as I stepped toward the kitchen. What? I was snapped back to Lana's voice once more. Huh? Well, you said something, then you trailed off. Seriously, is everything okay? You're starting to worry me a little here. I shook my head. Yeah, everything's fine. You're talking about the BK there on Rodale Ave, yeah? Yeah. Okay, listen, go ahead inside. I'll meet you there. I need to talk to you about something. Okay, I heard her say hesitantly. I'll explain everything when I get there. Just sit tight. I'm about 15 minutes away. Come down to the basement, Jack. There's something there you should see. I lowered the phone and ran into the kitchen. Right, where are you? Come out now. What? Lana asked over the phone. I almost didn't notice. I hadn't noticed I'd actually said that out loud. Nothing. I'll meet you at Burger King in 15. Love you. Wait, Jack. I hung up before she could go any further. For another minute, I stood there in the middle of the kitchen. Come on down, Jackie boy. You should see this. See what? I was stuck between the urge to want to follow the voice downstairs and wanting to run out of there screaming like I was in a cartoon. Who was there? Why did it sound almost exactly like my uncle? The truth will kill you, Jack. Don't ever go back home. The voicemail continued cycling through my head on repeat. It looks like me. It's coming for me. That brought back a third element to all of this, to join the two I'd mentioned earlier. Whoever it was that he was talking about, he too must have some sort of connection to what happened at the family barbecue. This also means Dad and Grandpa had at least some kind of knowledge or connection with them as well. One more question I tried having to get from Lana, I suppose. How much could she actually have known? Could she have actually known Uncle Don's killer? Slowly backed my way out of the kitchen and made my way out of the front door. Before I left, I gave one last glance back to the living room. Everything was dark, old and dusty. Quiet. The truth will kill you, Jack. I closed the door and ran over and hopped into my car, taking off and making a beeline for Burger King. I ended up pulling up around 5 minutes later than I'd told Lana. I checked my phone to see if she'd tried texting me so she wouldn't wait any longer. Unfortunately, she hadn't. I went inside and found her chewing on a chicken sandwich and a small fry. Hey, sorry I'm late. Oh, you're fine, she said, taking a sip of her large Pepsi. Hope you don't mind. She gestured towards her food. Oh no, you're fine, I replied, anxious. Listen, there's some things I need to ask you about. She looked at me, urging me to go on as she took another bite of her food. Yeah, you remember the family barbecue 3 years ago? She swallowed before pausing for a moment to think. Not expressly, she replied. I mean, I remember we were all there. It was the week leading to your 23rd birthday party. Everyone was all happy and excited for that. Yeah, I remember that was also the last time I saw Uncle Don. I swallowed then and asked, Lana, do you have any idea why Uncle Don stopped showing up to family gatherings? She paused for another moment before shaking her head. Not really. I mean, he and the old man kind of got into it, I remember. About what? She looked at me confused. The argument. Do you have any clue as to what it was about? Again, she shook her head. I mean, I remember hearing them start raising their voices at each other a bit, and at least from what I could see, almost looked to me like they were going to start trading licks before Grandpa stepped in and broke the two up. After that, I just remember Uncle Don leaving without another word. You didn't happen to hear anything that was said, did you? Not really. Well, I think I heard something about something or somebody in the basement of the old house. Yeah, something Uncle Don was seeing something in the old basement. I couldn't hear what, though. And that was the last time I'd seen Uncle Don before. Well, she looked down at her sandwich like she was unsure she wanted to finish it anymore. He never tried to reach out to you? I asked. She looked back up at me, raising her eyebrow in confusion again. No, she answered worriedly. Jack, seriously, what's going on? You've been anxious ever since the phone call. What happened? I sighed. I opened my mouth to try and speak, but stopped. I could hear Crazy Train playing in my pocket. I gestured to Lana to wait a moment before taking my phone out. It was a call from Dad. I got up and walked outside and answered. Hello? Dad? Jack, Dad shouted. My heart immediately jumped into my throat. Jack, it's after me. Dad, what's going on? I could tell from his voice that he was panicking. Something was wrong. Jack, you have to get out of here right now. You have to get out of town and... His words were cut off when he let out a blood-curdling shriek before being abruptly silenced. Dad. Dad. You left, Jack. Well, this voice was different. It wasn't Dad's. It was a voice from earlier in the house. Uncle Don's voice. You left before the reunion, Jack. It'd really mean a lot to the folks if you'd come. Lana, too. We want the whole family. My joints were frozen stiff. My blood felt like it had frozen solid inside my body. Dad was in trouble. Who is this, and why does he sound so much like Uncle Dan? Come on home, Jack. We'll be waiting for you, even the old man here. call ended after that. I tried calling the number back, trying to talk to the person again, but it cut to voicemail all 3 times I tried. It was clear. I had to go back to the house again. I went back inside and strode back to the table. Lana looked up at me, worried. "Jack, is everything okay? Who was..." "We have to go," I said, cutting her off. "What happened?" "It's Dad. He's in trouble. Look, we have to go now." "Wait, what do you mean? What kind of trouble?" I looked at her, trying to signal to her that now really wasn't the time for questions. Not only because Dad was in danger, but because I, myself, was just as freaking clueless. She reached out to me and said, "Jack, please, tell me what's going on." I retracted. "Look, here's what happened. The night Uncle Don was killed, he tried to reach out to me." I pulled out my phone and brought up the text messages. He's trying to tell me something about the old house. Something about some truth or something. I don't know. When I went there, I didn't see anything, but now somebody or something from there has Dad, okay? There. Now, come on. She stared in shock at the phone. I reached out and grabbed her arm to lead her out. "Wait, where are we even going?" I looked at her, anxiety plastered all across my face, and replied, "Home." Part 2. I led the 2 of us outside. "Here's the plan, okay?" I said, letting go of her. "You remember where the old house is, right?" "Barely," she replied, obviously still shaken. "Okay, look, I want you to follow me in your car, okay? We'll go grab Dad and get the hell out of there, okay? And we'll call the police or somebody to come out to the place. Anything goes too far sideways before then, at least we'll have a backup vehicle." She still just stood there, looking both frightened and confused. I couldn't blame her. Like I said, I was just as confused. But I couldn't just sit there, knowing what had happened to Uncle Don might happen to Dad as well. I hopped in my car and turned the engine over. Just before peeling out of there, I rolled down my window and called out to Lana to keep in touch with me over the phone. I then hit the road, going at least 85 miles an hour or more. It was another 10 or so minutes before Lana texted me that she was following behind me. It was around 4:30 when I was pulling into the driveway of the old family home once again. Lana arrived just 5 minutes after. We got out and slowly made our way to the house. My legs shook with every step, and I could see hers were no better. My mind was stuck. What was I going to see? Was Dad even going to be alive? Who the hell was this guy even? Still never had any kind of answer for that. What was I going to do? Reaching the porch, I attempted to look through the windows again. Still blocked off, just like last time. "Dad!" Lana started calling out. "Dad, where are you?" Silence. I looked back to the door and began knocking. For about 10 seconds, there was nothing. It was still quiet, just like the last time I was there. Then, however, from the other side of the door, I could hear Uncle Don's voice shout, "Come on in, I've been waiting for you." Lana froze and looked at me. Her face was drained of color, turning it from her natural olive tan to stark white. "Is that..." I responded by looking at her, horrified myself and slowly nodding. I closed my eyes and took a deep breath before turning the handle and throwing the door open. "Dad." Inside the living room was still dark, but at the other end, in the kitchen, I could see the dim glow of a candle. I stepped inside with Lana right behind me. About a foot away from the threshold between the living room and kitchen, I began to see the dim light illuminate Dad's face. He groaned weakly through a cloth that had been tied around his mouth. I could faintly see bruises and small cuts all over his face. "Come and join us at the table, kiddos. We'll sit as one big family." The figure, tall and broad-shouldered, stepped out of the kitchen and took a seat at the table next to Dad. Lana and I stood at the threshold. come on now, the man said. I said join us at the table for a family gathering. I exchanged a glance with Lana and back at the table. The man's face was still mostly obscured by darkness. I couldn't make out anything apart from his nose and right eye. Seeing this, though, I was shocked by one thing. His outline was almost exactly the same as Uncle Don's, including his rounded nose. But his eye was all wrong. It didn't even look human, appearing pupilless and like two deep violet-colored marbles were stuck in his face. Hesitantly, I pulled out a chair at the other end of the table across from him and sat down. Lana stayed standing behind me. Lana, he said, what's wrong? Don't you want to take a load off? She said nothing. He shrugged and said, suit yourself. Who are you? I asked. I heard him chuckle. Boy ain't wasting any time, is he? Oh, maybe I'll go ahead and call the others in then. Narrowed my eyes. Others? He turned to the left and cupped his hand to his mouth and called out, come on out, y'all. Time we got everybody together. I heard Dad groan through his gag and fidget in his chair. From around the table, I could hear the old wood creak with footsteps approaching. I started looking around. What the hell? What is that? Who's... My thoughts abruptly died when I began to make out 5 other figures in the darkness. Each of them was about my height, one of them being slightly taller and the other slightly shorter, except one was my exact height. Each of them gazed at me from the dark area around the kitchen table with dark violet eyes. Now, the family's all here. Ain't that sweet? Jeered not Uncle Don. Mine and Lana's jaws hung slack. We were both horrified. What's the matter? Ain't your kids gonna say hello? You shy? They're your own family, for Christ's sake. We were silent, speechless. I can't believe this. How are you kids gonna be this rude to your own family? Are you blind? You can't see your own family resemblance? The crowd of figures gathered around behind, not Uncle Don. Squinting, I noticed then how familiar the outlines were. 2 of them in particular disturbed me the most. They were of me and Lana. I could tell because of how, despite still being largely shrouded in darkness, their height and overall outline almost seemed to be a perfect replica of ours. It was like I was somehow locked in a staring match with my own shadow. I could tell the same held true for Lana, too, with her face even paler than mine. Take a seat, guys. Not Uncle Don told the group of shadows behind him. They all began to pull out and take seats at the table, except for the ones that looked like me and Lana. They stood at either side of the table. All of them, including not Uncle Don, bore down on the 2 of us with marbled eyes. What is this? Who are you people? Lana exclaimed. This time it was another one that spoke. I told you. It's our family gathering. It was a woman's voice, familiar. The voice of someone I knew, for a fact, was long dead, like Grandpa and Uncle Don. Ma? The figure leaned over into the candlelight to illuminate the face of my mother. Her skin looked so young, so fresh and smooth, so new. She was 65 when she died, just a couple of years before the whole thing with the family barbecue. Now, though, she had the face of a woman who was maybe half that age. Well there, she said, grinning psychotically. It's been a while, hasn't it? My tongue felt dry, the muscles in my jaws locked. What do you want? Look, whatever Dad did, please, just let him go, Lana begged. Calm down, sweetheart, another voice from the shadows said, this one's voice deeper. I recognized this one as Dad. He also revealed his face through the candlelight, also appearing almost 5 years younger than the man tied up and gagged at the other end of the table. That was when Lana froze up like how I was. "What's wrong? Why don't you give your old man some sugar, huh?" he asked. Lana slowly started backing away. "Where are you running off to?" not Uncle Don asked. The shadows of the two of us began to move in on her when I shot out my hand. "Wait," I said, shooting out my hand. They stopped. "Let her go. I'm here. I'm the one you wanted, remember? Just let her go and you can do whatever you want with me, okay?" "I said I wanted the whole family here for this, Jack. I wanted you all to meet the rest of the family, the ones you all never once tried to speak to or acknowledge." "What the fuck are you talking about?" From my right, next to not Mum, I heard the unmistakable voice of Grandpa speak. "Now I know you kids were raised better than to curse at your own family like that. At the dinner table, too." He too then revealed the far younger-looking face of my grandfather. "It's all right, Pops," not Uncle Don said. "Like I said, they wouldn't have known no better. No thanks to this clown right here." He then sent a sharp elbow jab into Dad's right shoulder, causing him to groan weakly in pain. His eyes were dim, yet still just as petrified. "What are you guys talking about? Look, I don't know who you people are or why you look like my family, including the people who've been dead for years now. I don't know why you went and killed my uncle, but you told me to come here. So here we are. Now will you please tell me what this is all about?" Not Uncle Don sighed and said, annoyed, "Just can't ever enjoy a family gathering, can you?" He then nodded over to not me and not Lana, who then promptly walked over to me and her and took us by the arms. "Hey, what are you doing? Get your freaking hands off me." I tried sending a right hook with my free hand across not me's jaw. It connected, but it did little more than piss him off, and he returned the favor with a hook straight to my stomach. I doubled over, clutching my stomach in pain. Now, play nice, you two," teased not Uncle Don. I looked up to see Lana struggling against the hold of her own doppelganger. "Get off me," she cried. "Let her go," I said, trying to find my way back up to my feet. I felt not me snatch the back of my head to force me the rest of the way up before seizing me once again by the arms. Not Uncle Don then stood up from his chair, jerked Dad up with him, and made his way to the area to the right of the dining room. Lana and I were then being pushed along in close pursuit. We were forced along into the darkened hallway, about 8 or 9 steps out from the dining room area, and I was unable to see anything in front or around me anymore. I couldn't even see Lana, who'd been pushed along right beside me to my right. From ahead of our little gathering, I heard not Uncle Don call out to us, "We're going down, so watch your step." This was then followed by the sound of a wooden door creaking open. He was leading us down into the basement, I realized. We were shoved forward, causing me to stumble and almost lose my footing completely. We were now in the basement of the family home, a place that, admittedly, I'd never seen before in my life. I remember how curious I'd get about the old door at the end of the hall leading into the dining room, but each time I'd get close to it, Dad or Uncle Don would usually stop me, telling me that I wasn't allowed to go near that door. I, of course, never understood why, other than because Dad said so. But now, with what I was faced with at that moment and what I'd see next, I understood more than I wished I would have, as well as why Uncle Don fell out with the family. Surrounding us now was a dimly lit room, illuminating shelves upon shelves of old, dirty-looking books and glass jars with stuff in them. I won't describe too much here about what was in them. Basically, think about any movie you've seen where the people are poking around a psycho killer's house, or the grisly trophies you'd see laying around, hung up or on shelves like there were here. That's basically what this was, only somewhat more disturbing when combined with all the strange symbols that were painted everywhere. "What is this?" Lana cried, disgusted like I was. She beat me with that question by 2 seconds.
The family secret,
Not Uncle Don replied. He turned to Dad and said,
Ain't that right?
Dad grunted in a pitiful attempt at defiance. Dad, what's he talking about? I asked.
Yeah, why don't you finally spill it, old man?
Not Uncle Don sneered before rudely ripping out Dad's gag. Dad's head dropped down toward the ground, lolling around like his neck was made of rubber. Dad, what's going on? Who the hell are these guys, and what are they doing here? He looked up at me. His eyes were full of fear and exhaustion.
I told you to get out of here, Jack,
he muttered. Dad, what's going on? He exchanged a look between me and Lana, then to Not Uncle Don, before then looking back to me and sighing.
Look, the family was desperate, Jack.
Times were different back before you kids were born. Your uncle and I were, well, a couple of belligerent morons who, because your grandma and grandpa were always working, were, well, left unsupervised a lot. He paused, sighing heavily. He likely would have stopped there if it weren't for Not Uncle Don telling him to
go on with it now.
He glared back and continued.
Yeah, it was one day when Don and I came home to find our folks crying.
Said Grandpa had just lost his job and owed a lot of people a lot of money, and we didn't have any way to pay it off. We were in danger of losing the house. Didn't even have enough to afford a decent meal, so me and Don were scared. We knew if we lost the house, we'd have been taken from our folks, and Grandpa would likely be thrown in jail. That night, while in bed, I was praying to God that we wouldn't lose the house. Well, Don had another idea. He walked over to one of the shelves and took down one of the books. Cracking it open, he held up a page with weird-looking symbols, looking something similar to Asian or even some sort of Middle Eastern lettering, along with a crude drawing of what looked to me like a shadow figure standing side by side, mirroring a normal-looking person. Not Uncle Don laughed and remarked,
Go on, tell him what that is, why don't you?
Dad hesitated, continuing to glare at him.
Dad,
what is this? Lana asked. He turned to her and answered.
It's a guide to summon a tulpa, a mirror version of yourself.
My eyes bugged out at this.
Summon?
My brain was screaming.
He said summon.
I couldn't believe it. For as long as I could remember, my family, my father especially, was a strong Christian. Anything even remotely involved with something like this, he'd have had no tolerance for. I mean, for God's sake, that Metallica poster in my room probably would have been torn down and trashed a long time ago if the old man would have had his way. Now, I come to find out he and my uncle were actually summoning shit as kids. Lana had the same thoughts too.
Dad, what? How could you?
She spoke for the both of us. Dad was silent again. Not Lana then piped up.
Oh, give your old man a break, honey.
I mean, come on, you don't honestly think he was always as pious and stuck up as he is like now, do you?
She's right,
cheered Not Uncle Don.
In fact, you were quite the mischievous one back in the day, weren't you?
Go to hell, he spat back. Not Uncle Don just snickered. I stood, mouth gaping. Dad, despite his best efforts at defiance, couldn't hide it. He was guilty. Everything that was being said was all true.
We only wanted to keep the family together,
he continued, voice completely devoid of emotion or inflection.
We were afraid, Jack.
We thought, using the tulpas, we'd be able to have someone, a part of the family, with the two of us if the worst came to light.
Look what happened. It worked. Let's have a round of applause, everybody.
The others followed Not Uncle Don's lead and erupted into a small chorus of applause, with Not Mom and Not Grandma whistling.
You weren't even supposed to stay,
Dad exclaimed. Not Uncle Don's smile faltered slightly. Wasn't supposed to happen like this. You and him. He pointed to the shadowed version of himself. Yeah, you were supposed to be the only ones. It's just supposed to be you two, and we were supposed to be the only ones who could see you. We sealed you away when Paul got the new job. You weren't supposed to even still exist. Not Uncle Don turned to me and Lana. Well, guess I'm not surprised about you two not being real family-oriented after all, huh? You just get to pick and choose who you do and don't consider as family. Is that it? Well then, I guess now it's our turn. Hey, what are you even talking about? Look, what's the point of all this? I asked. What is it you people actually want from us? He looked at me, glaring, having dropped his wolfish grin. You know how the saying goes. What goes around comes around. He nodded over to not Dad, but then walked over to Dad. About time that we show you all what it's like to have to get locked away in the void. Not Dad then effortlessly pried Dad's jaws apart before somehow forcing himself inside of his body. Dad began gasping and choking, and his body jerked and convulsed like he was in the middle of a seizure. Dad! I wanted to run over to him, but I couldn't wrestle against Not Me's grip on my arms. Dad fell to his knees, seizing on the ground. I could see his eyes roll into the back of his skull. What are you doing to him? Cried Lana. Nothing he didn't do to us, Not Uncle Don coldly replied as he observed Dad's suffering intently. But you're killing him, I screamed. No, he said coldly. Just making him a proper part of the family. He didn't want us to be a part of his family of actual people. So we're going to make him a part of ours instead, whether he likes it or not. Dad's body slowly began to relax before going completely still. Then, his eyes snapped open as he slowly stood up again. His eyes were now the eyes of the other tulpas. My eyes grew to the size of serving platters. My mouth went dry and my heart dropped like a stone into the pit of my stomach. I looked at Dad, now taken over by not Dad, and looked over to not Uncle Don. I wanted to throw up then, realizing that's what he must have done to Uncle Don that night. I was even more horrified when, only a couple of seconds later, Dad's skin began peeling away like a snake molting its pelt. It stripped and peeled away slowly, revealing another layer of flesh underneath. It was like watching Dad's skin peel away to reveal another him, this one being paler and with the tulpa eyes. What have you done? I cried. This time not Dad replied. He's just told you, boy. He's now part of us, just like Don. We're complete now, the two of us. Now it's time to bring you, kids, properly into the fold. I felt Not Me's hand start to force me to the ground from behind me. Not Lana did the same with my sister. Maybe now we'll have a proper family gathering, huh? Not Uncle Don said, plastering his deranged grin from before. I tried to struggle, attempting to pry and even bite at Not Me's fingers, but it was no good. His fingers were the equivalent of miniature crowbars as they forced my mouth open. His arm strength was unreal, like what I'd expect maybe from someone double my size and weight. But instead, it was a shadowed version of my lanky, puny, muscled self. Lana and I were both on our knees, with our tulpas prying our jaws apart. In one last desperate attempt, I jabbed my thumbs into Not Me's eyes. Admittedly, I was a bit shocked to see it actually work, and I was able to actually free myself. Once Not Me reeled back in pain, shrieking a way I'd never heard of before. A way I wouldn't know how to describe other than to say it might sound like what you'd imagine like a dragon's roar to sound like, bestial. Well, I sprang back to my feet and rushed to try and help Lana. I charged and managed to spearhead Not Lana, sending the both of us to the basement floor.
She began clawing viciously at my face from below me. I could just barely keep her pinned to the floor. "Lana, run," I shouted. She stood up, but froze, mouth hanging open in horror. "Damn it. Go. Now, get out of here and get the cops." "What about—" She was cut off by a scream as I saw, out of the corner of my eye, not Mum and not Grandpa snatch her by the hair from behind. She was sent hurtling to the ground, and I was soon overtaken by not Lana, who immediately proceeded to smash my face with her fists. I was helpless as blow after blow stove my face in more and more. My vision began to fade as I watched the other tulpas gather around me, watching not Lana smash my face in. "All right, that's enough," Not Uncle Don said, putting his hand up. "Can't have you getting carried away there and killing him, you know." He looked down at me, grinning even wider, and said, "How would we be able to complete the family then, huh?" With that, not Lana raised back up and stood up. I lay on the ground, surrounded, dazed and bloodied. Not Uncle Don waved for not me to come closer. "Now, if we're done horsing around, I think it's time to welcome you to the family, Jack." Not me leered down at me, his violet eyes sparking from his shadowed form. "What do you think?" he said to Not Me. Not Me responded by immediately grabbing and again pulling my upper and lower jaws apart. I felt a sense of pressure, like something was crushing my throat from inside as Not Me began to force himself inside my throat. I began choking and gasping for air, just like Dad did as I spasmed on the ground. My body quickly began to go numb, losing all feeling in every nerve and muscle. I couldn't move anything except twitch and writhe on the ground. The whole time the others watched intently with smiles as big as not Uncle Don's. A black cloud quickly formed in the middle of my eyes, shutting me out of my sight completely. Following this, I eventually felt my hearing begin to slip away too. I soon became almost detached from my body. I couldn't feel, experience, or do anything. I was little more than a fly on the wall while Not Me invaded my body completely, inside and out. Just before I'd be lost for good, though, I faintly saw Not Mom reel in pain after being struck in the back of the head. Lana stood there, holding the old snow shovel we had down there, even though I never remembered using it. She quickly took it across Not Grandpa's face, knocking him over. It was overpowered by Not Lana. Not Lana ripped the shovel from her hands and tossed it to the side before sending a powerful right hook across her jaw that knocked her backwards. For whatever reason, I guess out of its own weird sense of attachment or loyalty like how Not Uncle Don was talking about, this seemed to catch Not Me's attention, halting him from doing to me the same thing that had happened with Dad. "Don't worry about her," Not Uncle Don said. "She's a big girl, she'll handle herself. You focus on doing your part." But it was too late. I began to feel a sense of relief beginning to return in my arms and legs. My tulpa was losing control, being too focused on Not Lana. He must have realized this because I could feel him struggle to try and resume the process again, but it was too late by that point. Soon I felt all of the pressure from a few seconds ago leave my body and out through my throat. Then, there stood Not Me once again, still in normal tulpa form. Damn it, what are you doing?" exclaimed Not Uncle Don. "Now look what you've done. You lost him." I saw Not Me exchange a quick look at him before refixing his sights on me. He dashed forward to try and have me again, but he wasn't quick enough, and I managed to roll over and jump back to my feet before he could get me. I was about to try and bum rush Not Lana again, who was in the middle of forcing Lana to her knees and prying her mouth open like how mine was, when I was cut off by Not Dad. He backhanded me, sending me tumbling to the ground face first. I looked up to see that not Lana was no longer there, with Lana herself seizing and choking. "Lana!" I shouted. I tried again to make a break for her, only for not me and not Uncle Don to cut me off. "Oh, no you don't," Not Me said. "You're not going to keep her from us. Besides, the two of us aren't finished." He went to grab at me again. I ducked to the side, dodging him once more, before running. He and not Uncle Don followed after me in hot pursuit. I didn't look back, but I could hear their eager footsteps thudding behind me. I all but flew up the basement steps before throwing the basement door open and running through. I made it out, but just before I had the chance to slam it shut again, not Uncle Don managed to catch it, impeding me from being able to close it. You can't just run off like that, Jack. We're your family. We'll always be together." His voice somehow sounded even more devious when he said this. More psychotic, like a maniac. I didn't say anything. Instead, I responded by thrusting a swift, stiff kick straight in the middle of his chest that sent him tumbling backward down the basement steps. As soon as I did this, I slammed the door to the basement before throwing myself against the door to brace it as a series of violent crashes rocked against the door from the other side. As the knocks got more and more vicious, to the point I was almost afraid that they'd actually managed to bash it down from the hinges, I reached for the nearby spare kitchen chair we kept in case we had more company than expected, and wedged it in between the door and the knob. It seemed to hold for the most part at first, but I knew they'd be through the door before too much longer, even still. That's when I decided to make a break for the front door to my car. I flew out the door and across the front yard to my car, which I then threw into reverse and slammed on the gas, peeling out of the driveway and flying down the street at probably better than 75 or 80 miles an hour. The whole drive felt like a blur. My mind was on autopilot, with sheer panic having taken the driver's seat. Like I said before, it was at least a 45-minute to an hour drive from the old family house to Dallas. But at that moment, it felt like no time at all had passed before I was driving back into town. When I was able to sort of come to, I pulled over into the nearest parking lot, at a convenience store, and tried to catch my breath. My head was pounding, my heart quaked in my chest. It felt so surreal, so unbelievable, so bizarre. I couldn't even begin to comprehend what the fuck had just happened and what I'd found out. Even now, in some ways, I still can't really wrap my head around any of it. My father, a quiet, kind, respected, and God-fearing Christian man, along with my uncle, brought these things into our world as kids. They thought that if the home was lost, the family would be lost too. So they summoned the tulpas. They brought them there so that no matter what, the family would always stay together through them, even if they were split apart. But then they tried to get rid of them, and apparently it didn't work. I don't know how, but my best guess is that they were bound to the house itself in some way. For years, growing up, neither myself nor Lana ever knew about them because they were trapped in the basement. Until that night, when Uncle Don went back, possibly to destroy them once and for all. At least that's what I'm hoping was the reason why he went back. For some reason, though, I can't shake the feeling that Uncle Don may have gone willingly, allowed himself to be taken willingly. I feel like that might explain the falling out between him and my father. Perhaps Uncle Don wanted to join with the tulpa, either because of some weird fascination or some sort of desperation, such as being goaded somehow by the tulpa like I almost was at the house. I really don't know, though. What I do know, however, is that Uncle Don's warning was genuine. He didn't want me to ever go back to ever meet the tulpas. Even if he'd given himself over willingly, he must have wanted it to end with him as well. Unfortunately, I also know that this isn't over after the house. I think a big part of the reason they wanted the three of us that day in the basement was because, while in their normal shadow bodies, they can't leave that old house. But with the bodies of Dad, Uncle Don, and even Lana, now they can. I won't leave my house anymore. I caught one of them just 2 days after the incident in the basement, walking down the sidewalk. It was not Lana, and she spotted me, grinned, then walked away. They're watching me. I've already called the police and talked to them. Fortunately enough, I guess, I managed to convince them to have a patrol pass up and down my neighborhood twice daily to keep on the lookout. But I know that's about as effective, especially against them, as tattling on a bully in elementary school. It's been a few days now since that encounter on the street. Don't know what to do. Don't know how or if it's possible to get rid of them. But I can't go out there until I find out. And I feel like it's only a matter of time before not Lana or one of the other two who can move from the house find mine and come for me, and then the family will be together again. Forever. You know what, sometimes I just forget how long I've been doing this. More than 10 years now. Now, the first video officially on the channel now is from January 2016. I did a few before then, which were just appallingly bad, so they've gone into the ether, wherever. They're not on the channel anymore. But it really makes me think, and even working with Corpse Child and his stories, that goes back 5 years now, and I just can't fathom it. It really is amazing that it's gone. Time just passes so quickly, it really does. So glad you're all still here. I just wanted to really say this is a massive appreciation for all of you who are listening still after all these years. The comments you make on all the videos just really keep me going, and it's just lovely that you still do it. So I will be around for another 10 years, maybe more. Who knows? Anyway, optimistically, I'll be around for quite a long time still. And thank you again for listening and appreciating the stories. Any feedback you have in the comment section is always much appreciated. Right then. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this story today. Really means a lot to me and to the author of the story, of course. Well, if you want to know more about me, I'm pretty much everywhere on social media. You can find me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. You can download my music on SoundCloud. I've got a Patreon if you feel like. Throw me $1 or $2. Very much appreciated. And of course, on Reddit, I have a place where you can leave stories if you want me to read one that you've written. Well, hoping to see you all again very soon. Till then, sweet dreams. Bye-bye.